Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, and subscribe to our podcast on all of your podcast listening platforms. Also, make sure you guys are checking us out on our new YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, where you will find the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. But not only will you find the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, but you also will find Girl Dad Discussions podcast, which is the podcast that I have conversations with other girl dads like myself, and sometimes even daughters on, to talk about the daddy-daughter relationship in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So make sure you guys go there. There's also two other podcasts, the Earn the Herb podcast and Faith Walk Love Talk podcast, that is also there. So make sure you guys are checking us out at Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. So excuse me. I have something in my chest. I don't know what's going on today, but thank you guys once again for tuning in to the podcast. And we're going to jump right in it today. Just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. Jeremy. How you doing?
I am doing good, Mr. Ernest. How you doing?
I am great, man. I'm great. First of all, let me say thank you for being here, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. So, Jeremy, we're going to jump right in, and do me a favor. Introduce yourself to my audience. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have ladies in the audience, right?
It's not definitely.
Just the gents. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, mothers and fathers, I am Jeremy Roadruck, the only Jeremy Roadruck on the internet. There's only about 300 Roadrucks on the planet, and I'm a variety of things, but the biggest thing is I am a consultant, and I am an asset and an ally when it comes to dealing with those negative thoughts, those dark things that come at us sometimes in the late night, those 3 a.m. calls. I'm one of those guys you hit up because I'm not afraid to step into the darkness and shed some light. The world I live in, a lighted candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. And it's the idea, you don't fight darkness. You just become so full of light, the shadows fade all by themselves. That doesn't mean Pollyanna mask and just pretend and make believe everything's great. Because sometimes we have some situations that we got to put on our crap kickers and kick them down the street, kick them to the
Mhm.
curb. Sometimes we got to step in and step up. So in my life, I've been Kung Fu champion. I've been a soldier. I've been a consultant. I've been a business owner, also a hypnotherapist, and even a security guard and a factory worker. So I have been through the gauntlet of a variety of life situations and circumstances. And really, what I do now is I help men master the three most important relationships in love, life, and business, which for men, it's our relationship to the past, our relationship to the present, and our relationship to our future. And getting those three locked in, that's transformative, not just for us, but for the people in our lives that matter, the people that we protect, and the people that we provide for.
Yeah, I love it, Jeremy. I know we're having some excuse me, some conversations before we got started, and I'm like, all right, we gotta stop because we're gonna do a whole podcast before the podcast, right? So do me a favor, let's go back because you mentioned that. First of all, I want to say thank you for your service. I come from a
Thank you.
family of servicemen and women, and so I definitely always want to acknowledge and appreciate you guys for the work that you have done and do for us. Um, but I want to go back a little bit because you mentioned that you've done a whole lot of things, to get to the point that where you are now, and being at a point now that where you not only do you work with men on a journey, but you also work with children, and parents, or men, fathers and mothers, and the relationship with working with their children, just the whole gauntlet of things together that you do now. But before that, I'm sure there was a story that got Jeremy to this point. So take us back to the earlier version of Jeremy and who you were, you know, coming up until the point that now you're like, okay, now I want to change who I am and become a person who now helps who I was. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah.
tell us that story a little bit.
So in the very beginning, like we'll skip the whole I got born thing because that was already an adventure. Um, but 4 years old, I was a kid. I'd fall asleep standing up in the crib. The birds start chirping, wake up 100 miles an hour, no warning, just ready to go. I was raised on a leash. I was pulled out of traffic twice because I'd have been run over because I'm just curious and excited about what's going on. 4 years old, climbed on the roof of the house using the tree in the backyard, like just all kinds of crazy, but not malicious, not vicious, just inquisitive, curious, playful, just an appetite to engage with the world. And then 5 years old, I was out military base as a kid. I was playing where I shouldn't have been, security guard, did some inappropriate things. That took me sideways and I made myself wrong. I didn't understand what happened. I didn't understand why. I was out playing where I wasn't supposed to be, and then I got punished for it, but I couldn't tell my parents because then I get in trouble again.
Mm,
So part of me had to like shut down, be quiet, don't get in trouble, don't get caught. So I started to have to hide myself. Then that was in Saudi Arabia. A year later, we came back to the United States, and then some inappropriate things happened with some kids up the street in a closet. And again, I gotta hide what happened. I can't tell. And so this idea of shame and hiding, and I can't be open about what I'm going through, what I'm thinking, feeling. Everything for me, without realizing it, became kind of like life and death. I can't trust kids. I can't trust adults. My back is against the wall. People say one thing, they mean something else, they do something else. I don't know what to trust. I don't know who to believe. And part of me believes if I lose, if I get exposed, I'm going to die. So now you got a 7-year-old kid playing tic-tac-toe, and if he loses, he's acting like he's going to die about it. And I was smart enough to read the other kids are freaking out and pulling back
mm,
like I'm scary. And so I had to become a mimic and I had to become a chameleon. I had to hide and I had to figure out how to fit in fast. And so I kind of had to socialize myself about society and culture and people and who's safe and what's safe. And it put me in a very bad place for a very long time. I had a lot of anger, but I couldn't let that show. So it went inward and it kind of just ate me up inside. Um, didn't know how to like take a compliment, could never be happy about anything because it was always, it could have been better, it could have been this, could have been that. So
mhm,
really just a lot of tension and stress growing up as a kid. And I was one of those kids that was like wicked smart, but I wouldn't follow your stupid rules if you couldn't give me a good reason. And so in middle school, I got kicked out of the gifted math program, the gifted reading program. And but it was for like not following stupid rules. Like I had to turn in my work that you already graded me on. So why do I have to turn it in? You already have a record of it. Well, you're supposed to take your stuff and put it in a 6-week folder and turn it in. Okay, but why? Because that's the requirements of the gifted program. Okay, but why? Because we said so. Yeah, I'm not going to do your stupid thing. That's dumb. And so I got kicked out. And so, middle of the year, a week before Christmas, I get kicked out of the gifted math program. My math teacher, I had her for the whole rest of the year. I didn't have to listen to her until the last week of school because I already knew everything we were going to cover because we'd already covered it in the gifted program. So she would hand me the homework. I would do it and I would lay down on my desk and take a nap. I'm not sure what I was supposed to learn from this other than rules are stupid and administrators are stupid and adults are stupid and power structures are stupid. Like, the lesson they wanted me to take away from that, I did not get the way they intended. And so that was kind of how I grew up. And I was smart enough to know how to hide myself enough to not get noticed as much as possible. And that all started to change for me when I began to study Kung Fu and I began to train in martial arts. And it's great being in a room full of people that it doesn't matter how intellectually dominant you think you are, because they're just going to throw you on your face and step on your head.
Yeah.
It gets you to feel very, very fast. And so training in, today we call it Shaolin Wing Chun, but training with Grandmaster Ming, the Wing Chun Museum, Dayton, Ohio, it got my mind, my body, my spirit, my heart, it got everything like back together again. And very quickly I started assisting with classes. And I had a way of reaching the problem kids and getting them to listen in a way none of the adults could. I was 20 and I was working in a sandpaper factory. I dropped out of college to because I didn't want to waste money for getting a stupid degree in whatever. So working in the factory, training Kung Fu, and it was like a duck to water. And within 3 months, I was training 7 days a week. I was at the school like all night. I'd go to Grandmaster Ming's house and hang out till 2 a.m, talking Kung Fu and philosophy and all these different topics. And that really brought me into more healing. And it got me on a much better path in life. And it was the ability to talk to someone about literally anything and everything. I remember a really pivotal conversation we had is I asked Grandmaster Ming, I'm like, don't you guys ever get tired of me hanging out all the time? And he laughed and he said, no, why? Do you get tired of you? And I laughed outside, but inside I was like, yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Like, and the beautiful thing about being in the sandpaper factory was it gave me a lot of time to think, because the job I was doing, I was pressing the belts, the sandpaper belts. I was pressing those, and it's just a mindless job of you're just doing a thing every 17 seconds. You just do a thing. It gave me time to think and pay attention to that internal dialogue. And I began to realize how negative I was, how critical I was, how mean I was to me all the time. And that's really, that awareness was how I began to start unraveling, why am I doing this? What's driving this? Where is this coming from? And those questions began to dig into who and what I am, because I'm a different person when I'm in the Kung Fu school. So who am I really? Am I that guy or this guy? And the answer is both.
Yeah. I like that. Oh, I never myself was able to get into martial arts, but I did have an uncle who was a black belt, and he definitely was one of the uh, I don't know what you would call it, matriarchs of the family. One of the people in the family where it's like everybody looked up to, but definitely know that that structure that it brings, both physically and mentally, and I think even more mentally for a lot of people, is it brings that clarity when you can kind of master your body.
Exactly.
And I think that is so much that goes into that. So I like what you said, and I like how you were able to, find that inner voice, right, and that inner, and start really working with yourself, because that's one of the things that I teach when I talk to people in different spaces. I always say start with you, because you is the only one you can control. You
Correct.
can't control the environment, you can't control other people. You can only control you and how you feel, how you think, and how you react to the situations that you're in. And I always say, if you think about how you if you think about how you act, then you never have to react. Right. So if you're in
Right.
control of you when you go into any situation, you are able to adopt yourself so that whatever happens, you're not reacting. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
you already like, all right, I can already see what this environment is bringing to me. Let me, adjust myself accordingly. So no matter what happens, you don't get freaked out. You don't get, oh my God, what's going on? You're like, yeah, I seen that coming. And
Yep.
so I'd like to,
Yep.
I'd like, when we're in that space where we're able to see that. Um, so Jeremy, I want to go because you talked a lot about um men, right? Because we were talking, talking a little bit before we started recording and going on this journey with men, taking men on this journey, and that's one of the things that I really like to talk about because of my own journey as a man and knowing that okay, everyone is not as fortunate as you and I. Everyone is not fortunate enough to be able to look ourselves in the mirror one day and really start to deal with ourselves. Some of us go from 20 to 30, 40, 50 years old and never know who we are as a person. We only know
Mhm.
how we show up in the world,
Yep.
or how we show up in the perceived value of other people, you
Yep.
know. But I know you're in that space, and what, of course, we could talk about, lead like a king, and that whole thing. Even when you're in this space of talking to men and talking to us in this way where we're understanding this journey that we're now beginning to go on. What are some of the things in the beginning that we probably need to pay attention to as we're taking this journey, or even just being awakened to the fact that we're on a journey? Because most of us just kind of do that, like you mentioned about being in the sandpaper factory. It's the same thing every day. Just push the button. You know what I'm saying? But
Yep.
so what is one of the things that we want to start to look at, even just to wake up like, hello, you're in a factory. You don't have to push the button in your life. You know what I'm saying? Just consistently push that button, but maybe you can push a different button or turn a knob and completely turn your whole life around. So when we're in the introduction to Jeremy, we're meeting Jeremy for the first time, and Jeremy said, "Hey, wake up, dude." You know what I mean? Where can we go? Where do we start?
So for a lot of men, like you said, we get caught up in we got to produce the result. We got to get the thing done today. We're very mission focused, very task focused. And you put an obstacle in front, we're gonna bury that obstacle. We're gonna shatter it, break through it, go over it, under it, around it, blow it up, whatever it takes to just get through the resistance to get to the result. And those are beautiful things. But also because we get so dialed in, sometimes we need wake up calls, and those wake up calls, the stronger a man is, very often the more painful, right? And so one of the metaphors I teach very early is we call feathers, bricks, and freight trains. And the question is, how loud a message do you need to be able to pivot, to yell plot twist and do something different? And for a lot of guys, they need to get run over by a freight train. They
Yeah.
need something big, huge, massive that just completely upends his life, because he's so dialed in, he's so focused. It's like, I can handle this, I can handle more, I could take it, I could deal with it, until like his best isn't good enough. But then the risk of getting hit by a freight train is you also get damaged, broken, scarred. You get taken sideways and dragged along for a while. So it's a lot of wasted time, it's a lot of wasted resource. Usually solving a problem at the freight train level, it costs a lot more. You're dealing with a divorce versus getting support in your marriage or your communication. It's a lot cheaper to deal with communication issues than it is to deal with a woman who's weaponized and turning your kids against you. Dude, that could have been prevented if you'd been paying attention earlier. But I get it. You're strong, you're powerful. So it took a freight train to crack through your ego or crack through your reality. All right. So step before that is a brick. And a brick through your window is something shocking, something jarring, something that interrupts, but it doesn't completely derail. It doesn't completely smash your life. And if you wait for that brick, again, it's more expensive than if we caught it at the feather, but it's cheaper than if we get run over by a train,
Yeah.
right? So the fact that you've got people listening to your podcast, these are people looking for those bricks. And maybe before we get to the brick, definitely we're trying to avoid those freight trains.
Yeah.
Let's learn from other people's freight trains. But then the last one is learning how to listen for those whispers, because you always get an opportunity to make an adjustment, to make a shift, to make a pivot, it's a little tiny whisper. It's a little inkling of a feeling that just goes, maybe not such a good idea. Oh, we could do it this way. Maybe that was more important than I thought. Maybe I should apologize. And it's always these tiny little like twinkles. It's these tiny little tickles. It's these tiny little touches that if we're not paying attention to, we will completely miss or we'll gloss over. It's not that important, right? But your kids come to you and they want to talk to you and they're so excited about the thing and you shut them down. Well, eventually they just stop coming to you to tell you anything. And then years later, you're going, why don't my kids like me?
Yeah.
Because they're not available to you, because they don't know who you are, because you shut them out. Because, well, they wanted to just waste my time with some silly little thing. And it's like, no. That was the big stuff to them back then. They won't share the big stuff now because to them it was all big stuff.
Right.
And because you shut them down when they were young, now I don't want to mess with you. I don't know you. I don't want to know you. You were always working. You were always this, that, and the other. And now he's sitting there with his heart in his hand, grieving. And it's too late because you lost those 10, 15, 20 years in your kids' lives. You didn't get to build a relationship with them. They're just effectively strangers to you. And it's like, oh man, that's not what I wanted. All right, dude. So question for you then, do you want to wait till you get hit by a freight train? You get the divorce papers slapped in your face. Do you want to deal with it when it feels like you're getting hit with bricks? Or would you rather get hit with feathers? It's up to you when you choose to wake up. My job is to help you notice those feathers faster, quicker, easier, so that you can step up and step in. And then it's cheaper, it's faster, it's simpler, it's softer.
Yeah. I think I've been through all those phases.
Only by experience. That's how I found.
And I like the bricks. I'm a bricklayer by trade, so anytime somebody say bricks, I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Would
But
you rather get hit with a brick or hit with a freight train? I'll take the brick. All things being equal. I
right,
prefer neither.
yeah, man. And I want to talk a little bit about your you talk about two, as human beings, right, that we deal with our problems, our issues, whatever, in two major ways, factors, the stories that we tell and the games that we play. So let's talk a little bit about that, starting with the stories that we tell. And then we can even tie that in to this man conversation of trying to find ourselves and being able to you know vision ourselves outside of how the world sees us.
Yeah. So here's what I'll tell you about stories. All stories are true, but only some of them actually happened. Right. And it's because once you start to tell a story, you start to create a reality. If some situation shows up, you had a brick come smashing through your window, you got bounced by a freight train. Is that a punishment? Is that a crisis? Is that a challenge? Is that an opportunity? Is that a calling? Is that divinity? I don't know. But whatever word you use creates a reality inside you. It organizes your sense of perception of everything. If you say it's a challenge, if you say it's a crisis, if you say it's a calling, you will show up differently in that story. If you decide that somebody gives you feedback and you decide that's disrespectful, you will operate one way. If you appreciate feedback, then you'll receive it in a different way. And now you're open to new growth and new opportunities. So the story we tell, the language we use is so freaking powerful. Like I've trained my daughter. It's funny because like we talk about remember and don't forget. Because what is it you actually want someone to do? Do you want them to don't forget or do you want them to remember? So tell them what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. I don't tell little kids don't run because then what happens? Someone starts running and you're like, why are you running? You said run. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. I heard you. No, I said don't run. No, you said run. I heard you. Well, how come everybody else isn't running? Because they weren't listening. Who's right? We both are. Because I did say don't run. But what I really wanted was, hey, could you walk? Could you walk with self-control? Could you walk safely? Could you walk slowly? Could you walk with respect? Could you walk with consideration? But it's walk. Walk is a different thing in our brain than don't run. Because the brain can't create a non-thought. If you say don't run, the mind has to create the picture and the feeling of running and then cross it out. But then what do I replace it with? I don't know. I'm going to go back to running. And especially I'm attention challenged little kid. You said, don't run. I'm not running. I'm sprinting. And it's like, oh, you're opposition
Yeah.
defiant. No, I'm creative. But see,
Yeah.
if the teacher says oppositional defiant, I will smash you. I will control you because you are defying my authority. You're boring and you talk slow and you think slow. I'm creative and playful. I want to engage with life and love and understand everything. And you're not seeing me or understanding me because you're not on that wavelength. And so the story we begin to tell, like I just wrote an article based on a client conversation, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And the question I have for that is, according to who set the standard for ADHD?
Right.
Because think of it like this. Give me 1 second. I got to pull up exactly what I just did. Yeah. So instead of ADHD, what if there was DSID? What's DSID? Disregard surplus inactivity disorder, right? Because attention deficit, it's like, no, you're in a disregard surplus. Like you ignore a bunch of really cool opportunities that are available to you because there's really I've already thought of 47 different things that could happen right now, and you only thought of one. You're so boring. You're so slow. And why am I hyperactive? Why aren't you just inactive? Right? Who sets the standard? Who draws the line about what is or what isn't? Who creates these labels? But they are ultimately stories. And so that story you tell, big one I'll give for men is stop telling men to be vulnerable. And I'll pick fights on this because most men define themselves as protectors and providers. So you tell me, as a protector or provider, how powerful do you feel when you are vulnerable? And the answer is you don't, because vulnerable is the antithesis of being a protector or provider. I got to be strong. I got to be powerful. But we also know if we don't get that stuff inside out, it will kill men because men are
Mhm.
killing themselves for their stress. So instead of telling protectors and providers to be vulnerable, how about this? Be raw, real, open, and honest. And if the people you're around you can't be open and honest with, and you have to get raw and real, cool. Be around people that encourage open and honest conversation. You're allowed to feel what you feel, and so am I. And we'll figure it out between us. That creates a whole different dynamic. And that's really what men need. And the more they're able to be open and honest, the less they have to get raw and real, the less they have to fight to be heard or seen or respected, the less they have to go to anger as a default emotion, because they can own, yeah, I'm sad about that. And what's your point? I'm allowed to be sad. This is a big deal. And once a man owns the moment that he's in, he gains a power nobody can take from him, nobody can give to him, because he is power. And he's being in balance with his own nature. And it's like, that's what the conversation to get towards. But that's a story, raw, real, open, honest versus vulnerable. But tell a man, hammer on a man, beat him with be vulnerable, be vulnerable, be vulnerable. And then he gets it weaponized against him. Then he will learn vulnerability is a bad game. Cool. Raw, real, open, honest, different game. And that's why story drives to game. Game is just a pattern of behavior. And all of us are energy addicts. If we can't get positive energy, then we will force negative energy because we got to have the energy. If I can get you mad at me, I know at least you care enough to get mad.
Mhm.
And so sometimes we'll pick fights, even if that's not what we want, but at least I have your attention.
Right.
Right. And so it's like, well, there's a better way to do that. The fact they can still get mad means they still care. It's like this, it's weird, but when I work with couples and I work with men who are struggling in their marriage, I'm like, does she still get mad at you? Yeah, all the time. And I'm like, good. Have you said thank you? What? She cares to tell you how she feels, and she still gets hurt by the things you do, means she still cares about you. She still cares about the relationship. It's just she's going about it with a knife to your tenders because she doesn't know what else to do to get your attention. She's becoming a freight train because nothing else is working. The feathers didn't work, the bricks didn't work. So she's becoming a freight train to try to get you to care, to get you to pay attention, to get you to notice. There's still time. When she
Mhm.
gets to the point of feeling nothing after the rage, and now she doesn't even rage anymore, she just feels nothing. Now that relationship is dead.
Yeah.
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 And so that's that story into the game, and in the game it's all feedback. Like you didn't get the outcome you wanted. Fantastic. What have you learned not to do again the exact same way? What will you do different? I don't know. Well, I'm glad we're talking.
Right.
Because
Yeah, and I like the concept, and I think I heard it before. Maybe put a little different way of, all stories are true. It just depends on who's telling the story. And so if I remember correctly, or maybe I'm making it up, I don't know. But
I mean,
when
it
you
sounds
when you
good.
talk to somebody about an incident, like, and me and you we're talking right now, even when we get off this, off this podcast, and someone says, "Hey, Ernest, how did the podcast go?" Well, my version of it is going to
Mhm.
be a true story. Well, then you ask Jeremy, "Hey, Jeremy, how did the podcast go?" And then your version is going to be a true story too. But
Yep.
it's whose story, what I mean, that we're listening to from that perspective. So
Yeah.
they growing up, they always say is is my side is your side, and then it's the truth, which is somewhere
Right.
in the middle. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
It's,
So
it's there's
depending on
always
the
three slices. There's
yeah,
always three sides to the story because no matter how thin you slice it, there's the one side, the other side, but then there's the barrier between the two sides. So there's always that middle piece, which is the truth of what happened, but then there's always the two perspectives,
yeah,
And it's like I'll sometimes just make a distinction: what's real and what's true. What's real is what we experience. What's true is something beyond our ability to put into words. Right.
mm,
And it's like, what's it like to hold your firstborn child? Every parent knows that feeling and they understand when they talk about it, but no amount of I read a million books on it with a million words each. I still won't have the same thing of just the experience of holding my firstborn child. Right. And so the reality is the things we're experiencing and that we can explain and we can talk about and argue about and fight about, but the truth is something beyond any of us as any individual. You can experience truth, but you can't language it because it's beyond our sensory perception. Our unconscious mind runs 2 million to 11 million bits of data a second. Our
mm,
conscious mind's only 20 to 137. Like you can't bring truth in its full experience down into reality, except kind of sorta, and it's still kind of messy.
yeah,
And so I use that as a tool, like to always leave room for other points of view, other perspectives, other lived experience. That's why I'll never say I'm right.
yeah,
Right. I'll say when other people are right, but I won't say when I'm right. And I will say when I'm wrong because I realize something. I go, oh, I had that wrong. Oh, I came at it from this angle. I'm understanding it better now from where you're coming from. Oh, yeah. No, thank you for telling me that. So then I can own when I'm wrong, but I won't say when you're wrong. I have a different experience. I have a different understanding. Help me to get back on the same page with you, please.
yeah.
Right. And that's a story, but it opens the frame. It allows me to play a game of building consensus versus I'm right, shut up. Because I had that as a kid.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, Jeremy, before we get out of here, I want us to. I know you're an author, and we talked a little bit about the projects that you've done, and I was just kind of amazed by them. So, let's kind of go through the projects that you have created. Number one, and then what you got coming down the pipeline. That probably by the time this is, someone's watching this in the future, it'll be out.
Yeah.
But let's start. Let's start there with some of the things
Yeah.
that you've already worked on.
First one right here. Oh, actually, this is the second book, but it's called Your Best Child Ever. Is This Game Worth Winning? It's the only parenting book with a money back guarantee right there on the cover. And I wrote this when I was single, I wasn't dating, and I didn't have kids. That's why I put the guarantee on it because I had 17 and a half years of teaching Kung Fu and working with kids 3 to 94. And I kept seeing the same patterns over and over again. And it's like, are we playing a win-win game? Are we playing a game I get to feel warm, big, and happy, and you get to feel warm, big, and happy? If
Mm,
not, can we change? Can we change the game to something we both enjoy? Because it's a lot more fun and it's a lot more sustainable. And so that's kind of how the book I wrote it out. And the full title, How to Raise a Stable, Centered, Respectful, Self-Disciplined, Confident, Self-Motivated, Self-Directed, Successful, Wise, Wealthy, Safe, Healthy, Happy Child for the Complete or Not So Complete Beginner. The Owner's Manual of Children for Parents, Grandparents, Caregivers, Guardians, Teachers, and Coaches of Children of all ages. So whenever anyone says kids don't come with an owner's manual, be like, no, but I know a guy who wrote one. But it's not a maintenance manual because I didn't have kids at the point. Like I
right.
don't deal with colicky babies. I don't burp them, change diapers. Like none of that's in there. But it's like the psychology of it, of how to build with kids. And it's on Audible. It's on Amazon. I actually give PDFs away of it for free to nonprofit organizations. They could use as a fundraiser. Like for me, that book is so much more about let's raise the tools that families have to play with each other. And the
Mhm.
key thing I say in there is parents are what I call first line success coaches, because you are in your child's life to teach them about what it means to succeed, and you live with them. And so they are seeing your lived example. They don't know
Yeah.
what you are or aren't until you tell them. They don't know you're a failure. They don't know you're limited unless you complain about it, unless you make that story dominant in your life. Because they look at you, you're amazing, you're loving, you care about me, you take care of me. When I ask questions, you have answers. They think you're amazing until you tell them otherwise. Now, I'm a second line success coach. I'm there to help your kids be successful, but I don't live with them. That
Right.
gives me different leverage because I don't eat, I don't poop, they don't see any of that. They see you warts and all. And so let's leverage those different positions to everyone's mutual benefit, not resent, oh, well, why you listen to some stranger, but you won't listen to me? Maybe the stranger has an approach that's slightly different than yours that's working
Mhm.
better for that particular kid. Maybe your kid's more auditory and they need the explanation where you're more visual and you need to see it. That's okay because we all have different learning styles and learning strengths. Right. So that's kind of the point in that book. And it's really about how to raise and create games and just realize all human behavior is a game. Either we're getting positive energy or negative energy. That's all the games we play are.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's
and that
available on Amazon,
Amazon,
correct?
Kindle, yeah, yeah. It's on Audible as well.
Yeah. Okay. So to the audience, I'll make sure that I have the links in the description so you guys can grab that. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about your upcoming project that you're working on, because that's
This
the
one,
one that really excited
this
me
is the
when we were
this
just
is the
talking about
draft. But this is
it.
called Lead Like a King, the proven roadmap to mastering marriage, deeper connection, and unstoppable leadership. And this is based on over 30 years of working men, women, kids, couples, adults, teens, elders, 3 to 94. And what I did is I took 51 case studies of clients I've worked with, and we did a little what was the presenting problem? What was the journey we went on together? What was the aftermath? What are 3 action steps that you could take? What's feedback from them on the discussion? And then there's an invitation for you to go deeper. And the over the 30 years, what I've come down to is I work primarily with men. And
Mhm.
for men, there's a path that we need to go on. And like I said in the beginning, the 3 relationships to master: the past, the present, the future. It's the boy, which is the past. It's the man, which is the present. And it's the king, which is the future. And there's 3 parts to the boy, there's 3 parts to the man, and there's 3 parts to the king. And so this book has these case studies. There's 5 to 6 case studies for each of those 9 steps
Mhm.
to give you different examples. And there's 3 action steps each. So a total of 153 different things you can do and explore to improve the quality of your life. And nobody has to know you read the book is the best part. And then there's a course that I'm bringing out with it as well. It's a path to self mastery, 9 modules, one for each of the steps. And it's really for guys to dig in on themselves, to really get to clarity. What's the story you're telling? How are you showing up? What's the identity that you're wearing? What's the labels you've accepted? But who are you really? Where do you really stand? If you had it all your way, if you could make a choice and you could live life on your terms, what are those terms? Like, get to clarity on that, because you can't hit a target you've never labeled, you've never identified. Right? I work with couples and I say, okay, what's your relationship vision? Or what? Okay, I see why you're having problems. If you don't have a vision of what your marriage is like on all cylinders, of course you're just like whatever shows up and let's just have fun and let's just wing it. And I'm like, nah, that's not a great idea.
Yeah.
Right? You got to know what your deal breakers are. You got to know where your boundaries are. You got to know what you need and what you want and be able to communicate that to each other. Because with my wife, if I fill her to overflowing, this is the most amazing experience. And she's available for so
Yeah.
much. And if she
Yeah.
fills me to overflowing, I'm available for so much. But if either one of us was in a I'm not going to give to you until you give to me, like playing that brinkmanship game, that's not a fun game to play because you're always waiting for the other person and neither of you are in a powerful place. Versus acts of service is one of my top love languages. So she needs something. I'm like, yo, I'll make it happen. And then once I give to her, it starts this virtuous cycle because she naturally wants to give too. And it's a win win. Cool. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
Right. And then our kids are growing up seeing that example, and then we can teach them here's what and how and why. And that's really why I started writing this book. I turned 50 recently, and it's like, okay, I've had half a century on me. Fantastic. I love who I am. I love how I'm showing up. And I see so many people struggling, and 10 divorced dads a day in their lives. This information has to get out. These frameworks have to get out. And so doing the book, doing the course, I can run ads against it. I can do things to get this information out on a wider audience instead of waiting for organic. Because the dirty secret is, for guys, we look at stuff on social media, and if we agree with it, we nod our head and we swipe on. We don't comment, we don't like, we don't share, we don't add value, we don't say that's right, oh, that speaks to me, or I agree with this. If we agree with it, we just nod and keep on moving. It's like, dudes, that's not helpful. So if you guys are loving this podcast, by the way, make sure you give it a like on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment on it, engage with it, because you're also training the algorithm to feed you more good stuff like this conversation. My social media algorithms are all positive. Why? Because I cultivate it on purpose. When I see people do good stuff, I say stuff to them. I comment, I validate. I'm like, dude, that was nice. I love that point. Actually, that's really good. And if you read this, it reinforces that exact same concept. This is fantastic. Like, a lighted candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. This is the game. And so, Lead Like a King, yeah, we're in pre-sale as of this recording, but when it's live, we'll be out. And the book, the course, they work together. And then I'm building a community, the King Circle, for men to continue the conversation, a place where we can get raw, real, open, and honest, and we can get support, and we can get fellowship, we can get talking with other guys, and not to sit there and pick at scabs and complain and whine and grouse. It's okay. What do you want, man? Like, yeah, it sucks. And what are you doing to make it better?
Yeah, I love it.
Think of
I
the
love
most
it.
right? Think about the most majestic forest. It started with a couple of nuts that held their ground, and they held, and then they built, and then it accumulated. And so it's like, cool, that's what needs to happen. So, Ernest, you need more megaphones, you need more cheerleaders, I need more megaphones, I need more cheerleaders. The people that are doing the work to make the world a better place, we got to amplify that, because it's so easy to sit and complain. Well, actually, it's really easy to spread kindness too, because there's so many people struggling and suffering. All you have to do is feed them some positive energy. Tell them what they're doing right. Let them know, hey, that meant a lot to me. That speaks to me. Right? Just that, it lifts. That's that cheerleader piece. The megaphone part, share the stuff that's meaningful. Share the stuff that's valuable. Share the stuff that expands you or could expand others. Right? It costs moments, seconds to share, to leave a comment, to add to the conversation. But this is how we stop darkness from growing, is by creating so much light around us. It just can't exist.
Yeah, and I love it, Jeremy, and I agree with you 100%. And we're gonna definitely stay in contact so that when the stuff, yeah. So when it's done and the program is out, I'll be able to get the information and make sure that I put that in the links. So because this is evergreen content, so it's be here forever. So we put all that information in the description so that we'll definitely be able to get everyone knows where they can find it. Jeremy, I definitely appreciate you being on, man. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us. I want you to have the last word. I want you to leave us with a word of advice, motivation, however you feel on your heart, and definitely let us know where we can find you, where we can connect with you, and those things. I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. To my audience, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure you guys are checking us out on our website, the dealhealfulfill.org website, which goes a lot into detail of more about things that I have going on with the podcast, with the speaking, all of those things. We're going to do it an overhaul because it's definitely in need of an overhaul. But right now it's still up. So dealhealfulfill.org. Also, I just dropped my new website, my new speakers website, which is ernestjamesspeakslife.com. That is up. Make sure you guys go there and check me out as a speaker to be able to have me come out to do a workshop or to speak at your school or organization, again, that's ernestjamesspeakslife.com. Make sure you guys are checking us out there. Also, go to ebooksbyejames.com. Again, ebooksbyejames.com, and check out some of the ebooks that I have written, that I have available, including From Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook for young men, and one that I'm very proud of, which is the core four, which is the four core values that every daughter should get from her father. That is actually one of the books that we talk about on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, because we talk about those values as fathers that we pour into our daughters. So we want to make sure, again, you guys can check that out at ebooksbyejames.com. There are several ebooks that's there. You can find them again at ebooksbyejames.com. Also, we have our inspirational t-shirt line. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. Not only do we have inspirational tees there, but we also have our podcast merch, which is our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it. There's one with the logo for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as one for the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Last but not least, over the last couple of years, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month talking about forgiveness, what it is, what it's not, what it means to forgive self, forgive the forgiveness of others, just everything surrounding forgiveness. I really believe that it is a necessary conversation that we need to have. And we've been doing this for a couple of years now, maybe 3 or 4 years now. I've offering these free virtual workshops. So whenever you're listening to this, either one just ended or there's one coming up. So you can go to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for our next free virtual workshop, or you can go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission. The workshops are absolutely free, but the information is priceless. So you guys want to make sure that you go, again, to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for our next free virtual workshop. So that being said, again, Jeremy, thank you so very much for being on, for coming on to sharing your expertise. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, so here's the magic, guys. Trade expectation for appreciation, good, bad, or sideways. If you come in with zero expectations, then anything that happens is bonus points. Even if it's not warm, big, happy. It's like, cool. I learned exactly what I need to know to not do this again, or not go this direction, or not be around these people. Right? The more you can appreciate what is offered to you, the easier it is to take control of your story, take control of the meaning, because nobody gets to decide what something means except for you and how it means to you. Right? Nothing has any kind of meaning all by itself inherently in it. It's what you choose to take out of that. And that begins with a place of appreciation. And appreciation, you can think of two ways. Yeah, there's gratitude appreciation, but there's also, oh, I've felt like that. Oh, I've been in a similar thing. So there's appreciate gratitude, but there's also appreciate, like, I could relate. And that's how you begin to build bridges to the people around you, to the circumstances around you. You drop that judgment out, right? I don't judge anyone. I am not qualified, but I evaluate stories and I evaluate games for sustainability, because anything not win-win, it will always fail, whether that's a relationship, that's parenting, that's a business, it's a religion, it's geopolitics, anything human beings do. If it's not a win-win, it will fail. Give it enough time. And so the magic is get rid of expectations and put in its place appreciation.
I love it. I love it. Where can we find you, Jeremy?
I am the only Jeremy Roadruck on the internet. So best places is going to be Facebook, YouTube. I have long form content. TikTok, I have short term content. I'm also on LinkedIn. And yeah, so just Google me. I'm not shy. I'm the only me.
Right.
Pretty easy to find.
All right, all right, and we will make sure that we have all that information in our descriptions. So, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad, not the Girl Dad, we're not on that podcast, to the Deal to Heal with EJ's podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.